everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Megan, and I am the manager of Two Bright Lights. I'm so excited that I've been watching in the chat, seeing where all of you are joining us from, really all over the world. So that is so exciting. We are glad that you are deciding to spend your afternoon or evening or morning with us. So thank you all for being here. I am very excited that this is the next edition in the Two Bright Lights and Catalyst Wedding Company webinars. We partnered up to bring you some great content with some great speakers, and today is exactly that. So before we hand things off to Maddie, I wanted to just hand the reins over to Jen from Catalyst, who'll be able to give the intro for today and tell you a little bit about herself. So Jen, take it away.
Hi, everybody. So I am Jen Samaco. I am the creative director at Catalyst Wedding Company. As some of you may know, if you are familiar with Catalyst, we are a print and online wedding publication that really focuses on inclusivity and diverse representation, as well as kind of bringing a little bit of an intersectional feminism approach to weddings, which is different than most publications that are out there. So we are so glad to have Maddie here. We met Maddie when we hosted Unconvention, which is our traveling conference for wedding professionals in London this past spring, and also got to hear from Maddie some more at the Snap Photography Festival, which is run by photographer Laura Babb in Wales. And so Maddie is just a fantastic resource, and we could not be more thrilled that she's on with us today. She's got a great background in working specifically with wedding professionals and photographers, and has done a lot of research into keywords and focus areas for really niche audiences, especially the LGBTQ community. So she's got great information to share, and we're just really, really glad to have her all the way from London. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Maddie.
Thank you so much, Jen, and thank you, Meg. It's very exciting. So excuse me, first of all, for my voice. Obviously, fantastic English accent, that goes without saying. But also, I've got a bit of a cold at the moment, so I sound a little bit huskier than usual. But I am delighted to be here today to talk to you about SEO for niche audiences, and hopefully, no matter what kind of level of SEO knowledge you're at or you feel you're at, and hopefully you'll be able to have some good takeaways from today. So let me just bring up the little presentation I've got here. And hopefully you should be able to see that. Megan or Jen, can you just confirm that you can see the presentation?
I cannot yet see it, Maddie. I don't know, Megan, if you can.
Not yet. I can certainly go ahead and share it from my side if that makes it easier.
Okay. And let's just see.
Yeah. There we go.
All right, I'll follow along and just tell me when to change slides, Maddie.
Maddie, did we lose you?
I hope not.
Oh, no, there you are. Okay, great.
Yeah? Okay, great. Good. Forgive me, it's snowing here, so it affects the internet signal. It's bonkers, really. So, yes, so as I was saying, I run an agency called Make Your Business Shine, because that's exactly what we love to do. It's not just me. I have a team of 5 women and offer various different SEO and marketing services to wedding professionals, and such as everybody listening to this call. I started the agency because back when I was planning my own wedding in 2011, I really couldn't find the niche suppliers that I really wanted to. And actually, I just found out there was a massive gap in the market for my skills. I was already doing lots of online web communication and marketing work already in my day job, and so I just transferred it all into the wedding industry, and here we are today. So, if I change the next slide, please.
Maddie, I think it's on your end.
Oh, it is my end.
Ended up working.
So yes, so I just really wanted to read it back into basically what is SEO. A lot of people just think it's just these keys from Google and just really try and find out the latest usage from Google in some kind of way. Either by speaking to experts such as myself, maybe you're reading what their competitors are doing in Facebook groups, things like that. But really, I just wanted to kind of clarify. Obviously, SEO stands for search engine optimization. What is a search? Not just Google. It is in fact all of these kind of platforms and plenty more. It's actually anywhere searchable online. So really, anywhere online that is searchable is a search engine. So if you're on wedding directories, if you're on wedding blogs, etc., they are all search engines for business. And you need to make sure that your profile is absolutely optimized in the best way to make sure that you're meeting your target client where they're at. Why niche? Obviously, you're all here so you understand why SEO for your audience is important. But really, it's all about standing out from the crowd. The wedding industry is extremely saturated. There are many wedding photographers, many wedding florists, many wedding planners, many wedding venues. How are you going to stand out from that?
Hey, Maddie. Sorry, we're having some trouble hearing you. I think if you turn your webcam off and we're just listening to your audio, that might be a little bit better.
How's that? Is that good?
That's much better.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay. So yeah, so really it's all about why you want to stand out from the crowd. And you really need to promote that solution. What's unique to what you're offering? Being niche is actually much more supportive to your business. You're much more likely to get click-throughs from Google search results, from any kind of search engine results, and you'll get more inquiries that way by standing out. And also, it's really important to have confidence in what you offer. Lots of people sort of come to me and they kind of get a little bit stressed out by the fact that they just want to make sure that they get on page one for Google. But actually, what do you want to get on page one for Google for? Because let's face it, some of those big terms, they're really competitive. So it's much easier to actually rank for a niche term. It's really important to write for people first. It's really something I've noticed, again, when people are just trying to Google please, and people are turned off by it. We've all seen those websites where they just have the keyword phrase just absolutely everywhere on websites. It turns you off and it'll turn your target clients off as well. No one wants to be generic. And I think that's really key to remember. I have this hashtag that I love to use on my Instagram posts, embrace your eccentricities, because I really think it sums up exactly why niche audience works. I've very much got a niche. I work in the wedding industry, but of course not everyone in the wedding industry wants to hire me, and that's okay. But if you go to my website, then you'll really see that, yeah, it's particularly niche with all the pink and gold everywhere. So I'm going to basically sum up 8 different points. And the first one is understanding your audience. Really, who are you trying to attract? Who is your niche? And what are their main problems? What are their hopes and their dreams? Is it, for example, finding gay-friendly wedding suppliers? Is it simply finding suppliers who will create a wedding of their specific needs and wishes, regardless of their race, ability, gender, whatever it is? And I really think that this is where a lot of people can just really kind of shine with this. And so hopefully I'll be able to share with you today exactly how to do that. Because when you know their problem, then you can definitely promote your own unique solution much, much more easily. After the day, I'm going to be providing you with a free target audience profile. So if you haven't done this kind of exercise already, it's really useful to actually sit down and think exactly who is your target audience and really work to meet them with their needs, basically. So you need to show off your unique solution in your website text, in your images, in your social media posts, basically the whole way that you sell your services, but really kind of go for it. Like I said, stand out from the crowd. Don't be afraid to go too niche. Number 2 is which words you use. Lots of people always ask me, what's the easiest way to actually find out what those keyword phrases are? And there's some simple ways you can do this. Number one is stalk your competitors who are ranking for the terms you want to rank for. For example, London wedding planner. Who's ranking on page 1 for that? Have a look through their website and see what other phrases they're using, because guarantee they're not just putting all their eggs in one basket, and they're not all just trying to rank just for London wedding planner. They'll have spread their bet. So do make a note of what other phrases they use. Then go to Google Keywords Planner. It'll try and make you pay for Google AdWords. You can bypass that and use the free option, and it'll give you a range of numbers, basically, which will basically indicate how many people a month are actually searching for those terms and how competitive it is. So how many other of your competitors are actually using those phrases to try and rank in the same way that you are. So I just wanted to show you an example of what that looked like, just in case you haven't used that. So here's where I actually searched for gay wedding planner. And I actually had a look at the US and UK research, and it was really similar. So I've just put it all on one slide here. And I think it's really key to notice that in the numbers column, the second column along, it's actually got quite a wide range, 100 to 1,000 a month for gay wedding planner. For lesbian wedding, it's 1,000 to 10,000. That's a huge range. So actually, whilst it gives quite a good indication that lesbian wedding is quite low competition, so therefore it actually be really easy to rank for, relatively easy. Whereas gay wedding planner is medium, so not quite so easy, and gay wedding idea is very high indeed. However, what you really want is more exact data. So actually, I'd recommend a program called Longtail Pro. Basically, it really shows you the differences in the keyword research. So for example, 74,000 people a month search for wedding planner in the States, 27,100 in the UK, and both have high competition. But actually, what you want to do is narrow that down. So this is what I mean by getting that exact data. So actually, with gay weddings, for example, 3,600 in the States and 1,600 in the UK search for that a month. Now, yes, that's a lot fewer than 74,000, but you're making life a lot easier for yourself if you actually try and rank for that niche term rather than trying to rank for wedding planner. I thought it was also interesting just to compare the fact that LGBT wedding is much less as well, and also 0 in the UK. So basically what I've done is actually created a massive spreadsheet, and which I'll be happy to share with you all. I've looked at race, I've looked at gender, I've looked at orientation, all these kind of different ways, and really just basically try to find out the best terms for you all to have a look at. And if there's time, then we'll have a look at it together as well. But yeah, so basically there is a free trial with this program, and also you get 30% off. I've got a discount code for you as well that I will share with you after the webinar.
And Maddie,
so,
Maddie, what's the name of that program again?
Longtail Pro.
Longtail Pro. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, and it's $25 a month with my discount. So it's quite good, particularly for blog post ideas and basically finding out all the different kind of niches for your basically for your business. Okay. So once you've got the keyword phrases, you need to know where on earth to add them. So you need to add them to the titles of your pages. They're known as the H1 tags. You need to add them to in subheadings to break up your text, because ideally you have 500 words per page on your website. That might sound like a lot, but actually if you start to break it up with your beautiful images and start to break it up with your subheadings using the keyword phrases, it's actually not that much at all, and you can break it down to shorter paragraphs. And also it's much more easily digestible to your audience in that way as well. You also need to put the keyword phrases in the text of your pages and your blog posts at least once, if not twice. But of course, like I said, we've all seen those spammy blog posts that basically turn people off. But as long as it's in there once, then that's grand. You also need to add it to the titles of your portfolio folders and your blog categories. Now, this is where I often see people put all these beautiful images on their portfolio page, but actually you can break it up into kind of subcategories. So you can have outdoor weddings and a folder of all your outdoor weddings that you've photographed or planned. You can have a folder of beach weddings, have a folder of mountain weddings, whatever your thing is. You can have gay weddings, you can have black brides, you can have deaf weddings, whatever your niche is, you can divide it up into folders, and that's much easier to rank for that niche word as well. Basically, diversity is key, as we all know, because you're all on this webinar, but also that's how you're going to rank. So point 3, content on your site. I've just touched on it briefly there, but you do need to have multiple pages. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt again. It seems like the slides might not be progressing forward.
Ah, it's showing on my end. That's interesting.
We're still seeing the Google Keyword Planner screen.
Ah, let me see if I can just turn it off and on again. That's always the classic, isn't it? How about now?
Hasn't come back up yet, but it might in a second.
Okay.
And also request if you can speak just a little bit slower.
Ah, sure, yes. Absolutely.
There we go. Now the slide's working great.
Yeah, good. Okay. So, point 3, content on your site. You do need to have multiple pages on your website. These one-pager websites, where they're really long and scrolling, they look beautiful, they're very trendy, they're very sexy, but you do need to have multiple pages on your website. Of course, you need your homepage, but you also do need an about page, where you don't just write about you, you write about your business, why you started your business, what you're passionate about, because again, this is a fantastic area to rank for your niche, but also about your target audience. I love to work with couples who, I love to work with people who. This is, again, a fantastic area for you to use your keyword phrases, and also a great area where you can actually link to specific content that you've written on your blog, for example, or examples in your portfolio, like I just talked about with the portfolio folders. You also need a services page. Whether you want to put your pricing or not, that's a whole separate conversation, but you do need to put your services. And again, you can even have special offers depending on how you want to build up your portfolio. So you can list those on your services page as well. Then we just talked about portfolio with the categories, but basically it's really great just to basically just go for it. There's not a limit on how many categories you have. I have some clients who I encourage to have 9 or 20, whatever it is you want to do. It really depends on how big your portfolio is. And also don't worry if you don't have the portfolio where you want to aim for more niche or more diverse portfolio. Basically, you start writing blog posts where you're looking for couples in that way. And actually, that's what's going to get you found. And of course, we'll also talk about guest posting as well a little bit. You also need a testimonials page. I really get a lot of resistance when I suggest this to my clients because lots of people think they're cheesy, but actually they really go a long way to establishing trust and authority. Now, with the testimonials, of course, you put the beautiful words that your lovely clients have written for you, but you also put photos of your couples with testimonials as well, or photos of your target clients. Sorry, photos of your clients with the words, because actually that's also another way that you're demonstrating your diversity. You also need to have a blog. You need to be blogging at least once a week, if not more. Now, if that terrifies the bejesus out of you, you can actually just start basically building up quite slowly, because really what search engines want to see is actually you just doing it consistently. So if you start with blogging once a month and then getting nice and smooth scheduling with that, then actually you can then start doing it once a fortnight, and then you can start doing it once a week, and then your confidence will also build. I'm pretty sure you'll find. Basically, you need to prove who you are by showing it. So remember what I was saying about standing out from the crowd and having confidence in who you're aiming at? Then this is a fantastic ways of actually showing this. So by having the multiple pages, the more great quality content on your website, the more your readers will love you for it, the more your target audience will love you for it, and therefore the more search engines will love you for it. So yeah, like I say, the golden rule is the more good quality content you have on your site, the better. Now, I just wanted to show you an example of a client of mine, Parrot and Pineapple. She's a wedding photographer here in the UK. And this is the way that we got her portfolio page set up. So she's got different folders and she's aiming very niche. She's going for pub wedding photography, warehouse wedding photography, and garden wedding photography. And in there are just 3 different weddings on those 3 other folders. So she hasn't got a big portfolio yet. She's just starting out. But it really goes to show just basically because she's showing it right there and being quite bold about it, she attracts more of that kind of niche, and she gets more inquiries for that niche. I also wanted to show you Parrot and Pineapple's blog because, again, she's really gone for it with knowing exactly who she is. So I believe Catalyst actually shared this Feminist Weddings Ideas blog. I think you republished it, but she's really gone for it with the feminist wedding photography and the dog-friendly wedding photography. You might think, oh my goodness, that's really niche. It is, but it totally works. You know, I think she's got another blog post all about how she really wants to shoot a wedding where the bridegroom's dog is their best man. I mean, how awesome would that be, first of all? But also, I just think it's fantastic because she's not afraid to show who she is, and she does get more inquiries in that niche as a result. So, now point 4 is blogging. Now, really, lots of people always say to me, but, you know, there's only so much I can say around the certain keyword phrases that either I've given them or that they found themselves. But really, you need to start brainstorming some more. Create a spreadsheet. Have what I call a brain dump. Go for it with the brainstorming. Think about the questions you get asked on a very frequent basis, no matter whether that couple books or not, no matter whether that client books or not. Have those answers as blog posts, because then you'll actually start ranking for it when people are Googling that question. You can also, of course, share your passions, your insights, your experiences, your stories. This is all going to help you stand out in your niche. Also, there's a fantastic function where when you Google something, it's called the People Who Also Ask, and you scroll right down to the bottom of the Google search results. Excuse me, and it's got all these other fantastic phrases that you can use as well. Excuse me, just had to have a bit of a coughing fit there. Right. But the main thing, I know I keep returning to it, but it's always be a human being. You really need to basically write for people first and search engine second. I've given an example here as to what you should be using for blog post titles. There's city, county or state, plus what you do. So for example, London wedding photography. Then the name of the wedding venue, plus the word wedding, and then the couple's name. Excuse me a minute. But I've basically, I've just really found that titling blog posts in this way really helps you rank for not just your keyword phrase, but also the name of the venue. And also doing it in this order really helps because search engines read in order. So that's why the keyword phrase has to go at the beginning. But also, you can also look at forums, look at Facebook groups, find out what are brides actually asking. Maybe they're not asking you directly, but if you answer those questions and then go back and post the link, it's actually, your readers will thank you for it. They'll come and they'll share that content, and basically you'll become more known, and of course your search engine rankings will increase. Number 5, use your images. This is one of the easiest ways for wedding professionals to rank in search engines, and it's quite easy. What you have to do is make sure that you resize your images to the same size at which they're displayed, where basically this is when, when you receive, if you're a planner, for example, and you receive the images from your photographer, and they're usually about 3,000 pixels wide. You need to resize to probably about 1,200 to 1,500 wide. But obviously it depends on your website settings. But this goes towards helping your website load a lot quicker, which actually really helps your search engine rankings. But before you upload your images at the new size, you do also need to check the memory size is also quite small as well. And there's all sorts of tools that you can use to compress your images. There's JPEG Mini, but you have to pay for it. And there's some free ones out there as well. But I prefer JPEG Mini, basically. You also need to rename your images using your keyword phrases. Ideally, put unique file names for each of your images, but I know for many of you, if you're sharing many images, that can be quite tiresome. but it does help your search engine rankings. Once you uploaded your images, you add what's called alt text. Now this is for people, this was originally just for people who had sight problems, where they have basically a screen reader that would read out loud the text on the screen. And of course, you know, pink and red rose flower bouquet is going to be a lot more helpful than IMG 0059 Beth and Tom. So really go for it with basically being helpful and describing what's actually happening in the image. It's also your default Pinterest caption. So if people are pinning images from your website, then you can obviously basically make that as helpful as possible. And that will be really good on their Pinterest boards, because then when people are searching for those images, then your images will come up above your competitors. So basically, if you want to know any more details about how to tag images in any more detail, you can actually go to purchase an image tagging guide on my website, and I will happily share these details after the webinar as well. Point 6, tell search engines you exist. Lots of people get frustrated with how their websites appear in search engine results. And the simple way to resolve this is by telling search engines that you've changed your website. You can't rely on them to basically to come and find you. You need to submit what's called a sitemap to Google by setting up a profile with Google Search Console. And that's not the same as Google Analytics. You need to connect your website with Google Analytics to actually track what's actually happening on your website. And you also need to set up your business on Google Business. Now, if you're worried you don't want to put your home address, if you work from home, you don't want to put your home address on Google Business, there's actually a tick box now for service businesses, so you can make sure that doesn't happen. But you can also establish a presence in your local area and start to work on your local SEO, because again, that will really help your niche audience. Now, this isn't just submit your sitemap and then leave it, but actually anytime you make changes to pages on your website, any kind of changes to site structure, you need to go and tell them again. So you need to monitor it and you need to update your profiles whenever there's any kind of changes. Point 7, social media and SEO. I think this is really key because, like I said, it's not just Google that's a search engine. It's actually all of these social media platforms. It's Pinterest, it's Twitter, it's Instagram. You know, brides are basically searching for all their suppliers on Instagram and Pinterest these days. And so it's really important that you optimize there as well. If there's a particular niche, say so in the bio, say so in your Pinterest board names, in your Facebook photo album names. You need to update your location, your contact details, and all the information about your business. Like I said, you need to update your bio to really meet the niche's needs. So it goes back to understanding what the problem is for your target client and then promoting that solution. You also, of course, need to continue to comment and like, engage, and establish. Basically, it all goes to help your algorithms, particularly in the latest Facebook and Instagram algorithm changes. It's really important to like and engage with brands who have the similar sort of audience to you, because you're more likely to come up in the Discover feature with your target audience. Of course, you do need to reach out to those with similar target markets and get busy with requesting to guest blog, submit your work. With submitting your work and basically you build together. So this is really how you're going to promote that niche audience. So don't forget, Google is not the only search engine. I think the final key point is tracking your efforts. Like I said, you need to install Google Analytics, but it's really important to actually monitor your results. Google Analytics, when you log in, it's not as scary as it used to be. It used to be absolutely terrifying, I know, because it looked like a dashboard. Who knew what some of those things meant? But it's much more user-friendly now. So the key stats that you should be looking at, obviously you have the tracking code, but also you do need to check your bounce rate. Bounce rate is when a reader leaves your website after having only looked at one page. And you really want to get that down. You want to get that down as low as possible. And by doing that, you need to have lots of engaging content on that page, lots of links to other pages, because internal links really count on your website. You also need to look at which pages are being visited. It's quite normal for the home page to be the most popular page of your website, but if there's a significant drop-off in the stats after that for the other pages, you need to have a look at your homepage and see how you can introduce other sections of your website on your homepage by maybe adding more buttons, more links to the other pages. Introduce what else is going on in your website and people will click through much more, and generally your search engine rankings will increase. You also need to have a look at when are people looking at your website. This is quite easy to tell now from Google Analytics. And basically this is really important because that's when you publish the new content. You're then much more likely to get more traffic, and therefore your search engine rankings will increase. So that was a lot of information. I'm very much aware of that, but I would love to know if you have any questions. I'm going to stop sharing the screen. Hopefully the sound was okay.
Thanks so much, Maddie. We have quite a few questions. Megan, do you want to take the lead?
Sure, I could do that. And I'm wondering if, just to make sure our sound quality is good, that we should just turn the cameras off. I want to make sure everything comes through all right. So we'll try to answer your questions as best we can. So Jen's right, we have a bunch of questions. So the first one that came through was from Nicole. It's asking, where is the people also ask feature that you mentioned?
Yes, so basically when you Google something and the search results come up, you scroll right down to the bottom of the Google search results and you'll see 2 columns of other phrases that people also ask. So that's where that is.
And Maddie, how can you go about taking best advantage of that feature for your site? Do you suggest looking at that in terms of what other keywords you should be using? I think that was part where we were having a little trouble with the screen, so I wasn't sure if you went into more detail.
Yeah, sure. So basically, I would suggest it would be fantastic for it. You'll often see questions there, for example. So if, say you've typed in how much does a wedding cost or how much does a wedding planning cost, then actually what you'll find in under people also ask, you'll also see other related sets of words, kind of, questions or sentences that you can then use as blog post titles. And it may be related, it might not always be relevant to you, but it's always really useful for extra content ideas. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that really helps. So definitely looking at those terms that come up when you run a search for a keyword that you're using now, and seeing which other keywords you can integrate into your site and into your content.
Yeah.
So another kind of similar question that came up is somebody was asking, so where exactly do you put keywords and key terms on your website? Is it just in your content? Is there anywhere in the back end of your site you should be doing this? So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that might have been when we cut out, so apologies for that. That was on one of the slides, but basically you put it in the page titles. So for example, if you're a wedding planner, say you're a London wedding planner, you can have for your services page, you can call it London Wedding Planner Services. So you can use it in that way. But also you can use it in your subheadings as well. So when you're writing lots of text on your website, as you all should be, hopefully after today, then you can actually use it, particularly on your homepage, for example. So when you're introducing different pages of your website on your homepage, you can actually use the subheadings as an advantage for your keyword phrases. So for example, about London Wedding Planner. Obviously it's up to you as to how human you want to sound. Obviously I've been talking a lot about that today, but it's a really great way of using your keyword phrases there. You can also use it at least once in the actual paragraphs of text that you write on your website. This goes for pages and posts. If any of you use Yoast with WordPress websites, it's really handy because it gives you a guide as to how many times it thinks you should be adding it. And it's got a really great traffic light system. So if you have WordPress and you don't use Yoast, then I highly recommend doing that. And that will help you yeah, with where to add the keyword phrases as well. Does that make things a little bit clearer?
Yeah, definitely. And you also mentioned alt text. Can you talk about some best practices for alt text? We had a question about whether you should be using dashes or commas. And so can you share a little bit about best practices for kind of keyword stuffing and other things?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically you don't have it too long. The latest best practice is like 40 to 60 characters. So actually it's not that long. So don't use stop words like and or the. No need to use dashes, no need to use commas or punctuation of any sort. Just basically have the main words. So just describe what the image is. Just keep it really simple.
So also one thing that I will mention that some people might not know is that if you do what is called keyword stuffing, where essentially if you had a picture of a dog and then you listed dog, puppy, pup, puppers, doggy, you basically just used different words for the same thing over and over and over again. Google is smart enough to know that you're trying to just throw as many keywords into the mix as possible, and it can actually hurt your ranking.
Yeah.
So as Maddie said, make sure that you're accurately describing the image, but don't go overboard with your keywords.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. And also, it's really important to actually be the relevant description of the image. There's a famous example a few years ago. BMW tagged all their images with porn phrases. And basically Google found out and they removed BMW from Google. So it's like no one's safe from the fact that people want to keep keyword stuff.
That's kind of crazy.
Right? Yeah. So basically they just weren't on Google search results at all. It's nuts.
And Edward just asked as a follow-up on that, does using punctuation in alt text hurt your rankings?
No, it doesn't hurt. It's just, why waste a character? So you've got 40 to 60 characters in alt text. You might as well just, don't worry about going back and redoing all your alt text and images that are already published. Just focus on fresh content. Search engines much prefer fresh content.
Great. And so I think you've kind of covered this, but Heidi also asked about an example of good alt text. So I don't know if we could go back to one of the images for Rowan's website for but maybe if you could describe what you would say is a good alt text for one of those images.
Yeah. Okay, absolutely. Let me just bring up that again for you. Okay. Oh, there we go. Thank you. You've done it for me. Brilliant. So yeah, so basically, for example, with the bride and her bridesmaids, the alt text would be, I know that she wants to rank for urban wedding photography, so I'd probably put something like urban wedding gold bridesmaids, keep it nice and simple. And then for the dogs, it would literally be 2 dogs in a field. Like, you just keep it really, really simple. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So basically, you don't want to go overboard. If you wanted to connect the dogs to wedding, you might want to include the term wedding, but overall, just describing what is actually in the image.
Yeah, I mean, really, if I have a proper look at that photo, then the dogs are wearing a bow tie and a rose on their necks. So you could say dogs at weddings in a field, for example. You could go that one step further because it's, you know, they obviously are dressed up or whatever. But really just keep it nice and simple and don't go overboard.
Yeah, and so Michelle also just asked, is it too late to go back and add alt text to old posts? I don't know if you want to answer that, but my opinion is it's never too late.
No, I mean, it's never too late, but I wouldn't say that was a good use of your time. Just focus on creating fresh content with the, and basically implement best practice on image tagging going forward, rather than spending your time going back.
And then we had another question of exactly how much time would you recommend putting into SEO? Jenna asked it and said, it seems overwhelming with all the other work to do as an entrepreneur. So what do you recommend for basically how to bring some of these practices into your kind of day-to-day work?
I think it's much like with anything else that we have to deal with running our own business. It depends on if that's where you want to spend your time, if you want to get found more on search engines by a new audience, then you basically build it into your planning, your schedule, just as you build in time to manage your social media or, write new content for your website, whatever it is. Then I would personally say it's quite a large part of your marketing strategy. But of course I would say that. But it really can be how long is a piece of string, to be honest. So it's really up to you as to how much you want to focus on it. But of course, the more time you spend on it, particularly with these best practice guidelines that you've learned today, then the more, the quicker you're going to see results.
And also a question of, is there such a thing as having too many web pages? Is there ever a point at which too much content can really hurt you?
It really depends on your keyword strategy. If you're keyword stuffing, if you're just creating pages for the sake of it, and they're not particularly adding any value to your audience, then yeah, that's gone overboard. What you really want to do is be specific with your content. Does it add value to your niche audience? Does it actually say something new? Or is it just a rehash of an old blog post? If it's a rehash of an old blog post, just rehash that old blog post, update the publishing date, and then just add it to your social media scheduling again.
Yeah, so along the same lines, with keyword stuffing, Google also looks for unique content. So if you create a new blog post that is just the exact same content you've run in a past blog post, Google's going to see that you have 2 duplicate pages with the same content, and it's going to potentially demote you because of that. So as Maddie said, you want unique content, but if you want to refresh content that already exists, update the date and edit it rather than copying it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so a lot of questions about how to use Google Analytics, and that there's a lot of functionality there, but for people who are maybe new to analytics or not super technically inclined, do you have any recommendations for resources to help people get up to speed?
Yes, I actually have a blog post, a download, which I will add to all the other links that I'm going to send after this webinar. Happy to do that. Because basically it could be a whole webinar itself, I feel, with Google Analytics. It can be quite a minefield. I appreciate it's quite overwhelming. So happy to share that resource for you.
And then you also talked about bounce rates, and what is considered a good bounce rate versus a bad bounce rate?
It really depends on niche. Say, for example, wedding blogs will get a lot higher bounce rate because people will just come in and just read one blog post. But if you're actually a business as well, then you really want to, I would say, have at least under 50% bounce rate. So the lower score is the better. And basically, yeah, I would say aim for 30 or 40%. But really, if that feels a bit overwhelming, then just try and aim for 50%.
Yes, and it really can vary. So, for example, at Catalyst Wedding Company, for our website, which is a wedding publication, our bounce rate is pretty high because a lot of people come in and just see one specific post. So we're always just looking to decrease that bounce rate. So it's hard to know for each individual business what a good bounce rate is going to be, but you should be striving to try to reduce that bounce rate, aka getting people to stay on your site.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's exactly it.
And so Gabriella asks, if you go back and you edit the publish date for a post in order to update it, is it going to make it appear as if it's a brand new post?
Yes, it'll come at the top of your blog feed again, which is a good thing.
And it's going to look like you've written something fresh and new, but you really didn't have to do a lot of work.
Exactly, exactly. So you might want to do that after a day. You might want to go back through your blogs, and actually that will be a great opportunity to add the alt text to your images and reword your blog posts, change the title, and then change the publication date. And it's a lot less work than obviously creating a whole new blog post.
Sorry, going back through the rest of the questions that we've gotten. So question about whether or not you should be including your company or business name in the alt text of all of your images. Is that necessary?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And I mix and match it. When I'm tagging images for clients, sometimes I will and sometimes I won't. Sometimes I'll put, the copyright symbol and the brand name, because of course if it's appearing in Pinterest captions, that's brilliant. But really, if you don't think your tag clients are actually pinning content from your website, then your images, basically you're tagging them so they'll appear in Google image results. And what actually is happening there is your website address is already there. So your brand name is already there. So unless you want your brand name to appear at the top of Google, which it already should do anyway, then I would say just save the character space and don't do it quite so often.
Okay, so sometimes it's helpful, but it's not necessary.
Exactly.
Okay, and so one additional question, and I know we're kind of getting to the end here. So Louise asked early on, what do you do if you are, for example, both a wedding photographer and you do studio portraits? How do you tag your content if you're trying to reach multiple different niche audiences?
So this is a fantastic example of where you can actually have those subcategories in your portfolio page. So you can have your wedding photography portfolio, you can have your studio photography portfolio, and you tag the images separately. You can even have blog posts where basically you talk about the different services that you offer, and then they would link to the specific portfolio folders. So basically internal linking is fantastic in search engine eyes. So this would really help you rank for those separate areas of your business.
And so then it's probably better, would you say, to have separate subpage galleries for each of those different types of work as opposed to trying to list it all out and show all of your examples on one page?
Exactly, yes. Yeah, 100%. It's much easier to rank for if you actually divide it up into those subpages rather than all having it on one page. It delivers a much clearer message to the audience and therefore to search engines.
And then, and I think this might be one of the last ones. So if somebody had a question that didn't get answered, please feel free to go ahead and ask. But earlier on, you talked about that the best way to structure blog post titles was to include a location. So your city, your county, your state, your country, etc. So Latrice asked, if you are somebody who is trying to work with clients all over the country or in other countries, is it still beneficial to basically put the location information in the title of a blog post?
Absolutely. To me, it really shows that their portfolio is much more diverse. So actually, if you're working in London one moment, you're in Scotland the next, you're in New York the next, then absolutely have New York wedding photography or New York wedding planner or Scotland wedding planner, whatever it is. So it really goes to show that you've got this massively diverse portfolio, And of course, that's when you can also start to build in the sub-pages on your galleries as well. So you can try to group them together. Now, it doesn't, of course, have to be location at all. Obviously, today we've been talking a little bit about LGBTQ, and we've been talking about all these kind of diversity keywords. Then I think that's actually where you can also just replace the location word with whatever your diversity keyword is instead. So hopefully that makes things a little bit clearer.
And Michelle asks, would that become redundant? So if you have essentially, if you're someone who's just working in London and you put London on every post, does that become redundant if you put that every time?
No, because actually I find that even with my London-based clients, and they don't, they'll always have the surrounding counties, for example. And so it'll always be mixed up. It'll always be kind of, say, for example, I was thinking, you know, obviously London's a lot smaller than US cities. So if you're worried that you're always putting New York wedding photography at the beginning, then do change it up. Do just put the venue plus wedding photography, or do use an adjective instead from the diversity keyword phrases that I'll share with you. You can mix and match it up a little bit there as well.
Great, that's really helpful. And so Edward also asked, does metadata that you're embedding in the images, so the alt text that you're applying to images, does that carry over into search? So will people be able to search on their personal site, but also how does that alt text get utilized in Google searches?
Basically, Google really loves it as part of their algorithm for ranking your website. So if you put some effort in with tagging your images, it all goes to help your search engine rankings generally. But also, of course, it'll make you appear in Google Images, but it also will help the pages increase in ranking as well.
Well, great. Megan, I don't know if you had any additional questions that came up that I didn't ask. I know that we talked about doing a little bit of a blog post recap with some of this information.
Yeah, so I think what we'll do is we'll get together sort of like a recap, just so make sure that nobody has missed anything during the times when we had a little bit of the technical issues. But hopefully you learned as much as I did. This was an amazing webinar. Thank you so much, Maddie, and thank you, Jen, for taking the time to put this together.
Thank you so much, Megan. Thank you so much, Jen. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I hope you all learned a lot today. Thank you.
Yes, when we send out that recap, we will also send out the slides, just so you make sure you have that as well. And if you have any other questions, this is how you get in touch with Maddie. You're also welcome to reach out with us anytime. You can reach Two Bright Lights at hello@twobrightlights.com. We are here to help as well. But that is all for today.
Yeah, and so I think we've got a couple of last minute questions that came in that we'll pass off to Maddie, and maybe we can try to get some of those answered in a follow-up email. But Maddie, the code, the Two Bright Lights 30% discount code, is that for your SEO health check, or what on your website again is that for?
So basically the code applies to the image tagging guide in my website shop. But what I'll do is I'll clarify in this recap blog post exactly what what you can apply the discount code to, because that won't be the only thing at this rate.
Yeah, and so once again, thank you so much, Maddie. And if you missed any part of this, there will be a replay, but also the file of the presentations is available in the file sharing tab. So if you do want to go back and revisit it, you can download the presentation there and follow along. So yes, thank you, Megan, so much for all that you've done to put this together. And thank you, Maddie, for sharing such great information.
Thank you so much, Jen. Thank you, Megan.
All right, guys, thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.